Disclaimer. Please note that the information presented in this video about Project Serpo is speculative and intended for entertainment purposes only. The accuracy and authenticity of the events described cannot be independently verified. The views and opinions expressed by the individuals involved are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of any organization or entity. Additionally, this video contains disturbing content. On this episode, we will continue exploring the personal diary of the team commander's expedition to the enigmatic planet of Serpo. If you missed the previous episode, you can catch up by visiting our YouTube channel. The crew observes that the leader of the Ebons is more aggressive in his tone and demeanor, but still friendly towards them. They have provided the Ebons with blood samples, but some members of the crew are suspicious about the reasons behind it. The Ebons have also taken 308's body for experiments without the commander's approval, leading to a tense situation when the crew tries to retrieve it. EB-2 asks them to wait and pleads with them to not use explosives to open the container. The crew confronts the Ebons about taking 308's body for experiments without their authorization. EB-2 and the leader agree to bring a doctor who speaks English to explain the situation. The doctor reveals that the body was used to create cloned beings, which scares the crew. 899 becomes angry and curses at the doctor. But the commander orders him to leave the building to prevent the situation from escalating. The crew realizes that they are outnumbered and vulnerable, but they try to handle the situation peacefully to avoid any further conflict. The crew realizes that there is little they can do about the Ebons using 308's body for experiments, and they decide to calm down and accept the situation. The doctor assures them that nothing further will happen to the body. The crew returns to their living quarters, and the commander reminds everyone that they are outnumbered and cannot start a war with the Ebons. He orders two members to investigate the cloning procedure with the Ebon doctor to learn more about the experiments. The crew obtains permission from the Ebons to visit their laboratory to examine what is left of 308's body and conduct research on the experiments. They are escorted to the facility by EB-2 and arrive at a large building resembling a windowless school. They meet the English-speaking doctor and see many Ebons dressed in blue suits. The doctor explains that all the experiments are done to create cloned beings. In another room, they see glass bathtubs containing strange-looking bodies, some of which are not human. The crew walks down the space between the glass tubs, observing the strange-looking creatures inside. They ask the doctor about the origin of the creatures, and he explains that they are animals from other planets brought to Serpo for experiments. The crew asks about any intelligent beings, and the doctor reveals that all of them arrived dead. The crew asks to see these beings and observes creatures resembling a porcupine, a monster with no ears, feet, or fingers, and a fish-like creature with blood-red skin and scales. The crew observes a human-like creature with white skin and large bone-like protrusions in another room resembling a hospital. They learn from the doctor that each being is alive and being grown using parts of other beings, and that the process involves cells taken from other beings grown and mixed with chemicals and then inserted into the bodies of other beings. They ask EB-2 to translate the growing process, and she explains that parts of the blood and other organs are used to mix a substance that is placed inside the bodies of these beings. The crew asks 420 to help translate further, and he explains that the process involves cells taken from other beings and grown, mixed with chemicals, and inserted into the bodies of other beings. They also ask EB-2 about the items taken from inside the cells, and she translates the question to the doctor. The crew discusses the process used by the Ebons to grow living beings, and realizes that it is beyond Earth's technology. They ask the doctor if 308's body was used to create a being, and he shows them the being, which shocks them with its resemblance to a large ebon with human-like hands and legs. The crew decides to leave, and Eb-2 shows concern for the commander's state of mind. The commander reflects that he has seen the dark side of the Ebon civilization and that their impression of the Ebons has been changed by what they have witnessed. The team struggled to communicate their scientific knowledge to the Ebons, but found that the Ebons were quicker to understand physics and chemistry. They observed strange things about Ebon technology, including a locator with no recognizable electronic components. They showed Eb-4 a complex Motorola FM radio, but he couldn't understand it. The team decided to start a school to exchange knowledge, beginning with teaching about light and wavelengths, including non-visible light and the spectrum of light, as well as cosmic rays and how to measure them. 661 then continued to teach about gamma rays, X-rays, and ultraviolet light. 661 taught the Ebons about light and frequencies, and despite difficulties with translation, some of the Ebons began to understand. Eb-4 was shown a repair manual and the basics of electricity. But it was Eb-5 who showed exceptional intelligence and quickly grasped the concepts, solving simple problems set up by 661. Eb-5 became their star student and followed them around, asking questions through Eb-2. The team noticed that Eb-5 looked different from other Ebons, with a bigger head. The team noticed that Ebons from the northern villages have a more weathered appearance, and Eb-5 doesn't have a mate. The Ebons use a solder or melting method to seal their technology, and the team is impressed by their efficient manufacturing process. They had a feast using their last sea rations and killed a beast for meat, which the Ebons found strange as they don't eat meat. They used the last of their salt and pepper and enjoyed the Ebons herb similar to oregano. The team participated in the Ebons dances and games, but noticed something different at this particular feast. The team observed a mysterious team game played by the Ebons, similar to chess, and played softball with some athletic Ebons. They have given up using Earth time and rely on the Ebon time tower for their schedule. Eb-2 expressed concern for 754 who had been sick but recovered with penicillin. The team has been keeping records of each member's physical and medical condition, and trying to maintain a fitness program. Some team members miss Earth, as I do. But no team member has broke down or has needed some type of psychological help from 700 or 754. Our screening process was great. Keeping busy is our medicine. We keep extremely busy, exploring and doing our mission goals. At one of our team meeting recently, 203 and myself decided to give up the military greetings, saluting that each member did the first time they saw us. I decided we maintain our military bearing and manners, but we will give up the saluting. Each team member agreed. I have no problem with that. The Ebons just stared at us when we did that. But they also have their greetings. Ebons exchange greetings depending on the time of day. They hug on certain times, touch fingers on other times, and bow at other times. We still haven't figured out why they do that. Eb-2 just explained it was a formal greeting method. Ebons live a very strict life. They keep a regimented lifestyle. We have seen some variances, but only by a few. The military keeps everyone in line. The military acts as a police force, as I mentioned before. They do not carry any weapons, but they do have different uniforms, and every Ebon respects that uniform. The military are patrolling all the time. They walk in pairs and seem to be extremely friendly, but can be very strict. We saw two Ebons walking across a field. Two military members quickly approached the two Ebons and pointed to a building. The two Ebons walked to that building with the military members. The military members were yelling something at them. At the time, neither 420 or 475 were available for translation, but I figured those two Ebons violated some custom or law. We have been warned by the military when we approach something we are not supposed to approach. The military are very respectful when they deal with us, but they don't allow us to violate any of their customs or laws without warning us. The military presence on the planet is more than necessary, but they have not threatened or interfered with the team's mission. The team was alerted when an unknown spacecraft entered the planet's orbit, but it turned out to be a natural piece of space debris. The team violated instructions and went outside during the alert. But the situation was quickly resolved and EB-2 assured them that everything was all right. Timekeeping was a problem for them since the batteries controlling the timepieces brought by the team eventually ran out. This meant they could not keep track of the calendar, so they eventually relied on Serpo time, which was governed by the movement of their suns. So they lost track of Earth time and ended up staying 13 years instead of 10. It was determined by Earth scientists that Kepler's law of planetary motion did not apply to Serpo. Physicist was consulted on this, and wrote about 60 pages of opinion on the subject, but ultimately had to acknowledge that earthly laws of physics do not necessarily apply out of this solar system. The 8 people returned in 1978, and were debriefed for a solid year by the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, which resulted in a 3,000-page book. They were then released into civilian life. The last survivor of this brave and historic band of pioneers passed away in 2002. They had all absorbed large doses of radiation while on Serpo, and it is believed that this shortened their lives. The journey diary of the team commander concludes here. Thank you for watching all 3 episodes of Project Serpo.